We're live as ever on a Thursday evening, Sheffield Live TV, with a sporting programme focusing on both the city's two football teams at the moment, their contrasting fortunes at the moment, and reflecting that things can change back just as quickly as they go off in one direction. Or I think we're pretty clear that Sheffield United, and he's going to agree with me on this, are here to stay in terms of their revival. James Gregg joins us. You're enjoying the football at Bramall Lane?
Indeed, yeah. Off to Ellen Road as well tomorrow night. So yeah, should be a thrilling afternoon. I think that one.
Evening. Yes. You're going there presumably, Tareq. Tareq Hawasli, Prince Abdullah's representative, one of two on the Blades board.
Unfortunately, I can't be, but I'll be at QPR on the 31st on Tuesday.
Okay.
Yeah, but I'll be with you in spirit.
And James Marriott, who is a Sheffield Wednesday supporter, contributes to the media and has a website called The Wednesday Week. We're going to hear from one of your compatriots very shortly. Just before we do, that is an appetising prospect. Leeds v Sheffield United. It's live on TV tomorrow night.
It's a big one.
Yeah.
It's a big one. We want it. They want it.
Yeah.
You know.
The one thing about Chris Wilder is he doesn't change just, according to an opposition. He makes an opposition change according to the way Sheffield United play.
Sometimes
so this is what we're doing.
That's the thing. Sometimes you hear some of the, particularly the Premier League managers, Jose Mourinho always says, "Oh, we're not going to change anything," and he does. Chris Wilder, the prime example was the Wednesday match, and I was sort of thinking in the back of my mind, is he going to go and try and nick it? Try and. Oh no, I think that
not a chance.
Sort of has now sort of made Blades fans and everyone else sort of realise that he's going to go to Ellen Road tomorrow. And it's going to be exactly the same style and exactly the same team.
Correct. He will. He'll go absolutely for the win. And I honestly think that some clubs are guilty of not having done sufficient homework on Sheffield United. I thought Reading were party to that. I honestly don't think they were prepared for what they stepped into at Bramall Lane last Saturday, and they really should have been. I know you're learning about football, but you can agree with me if you want.
We prepare hard. I know that for a fact. And if anyone wants to underestimate us or not prepare for us, then so be it. But we give it 100%.
They do so at their peril.
Yeah.
Well, just before we move on with James and hearing from Charles Ducksbury, I suppose I wasn't there, but I waited up long enough to see what was being tweeted from the meeting. There were no live tweets. Eventually I gave up and went to bed because it was so late. But clearly the price of these shirts, a long delayed release of replica kit, should have been out in late July, ideally, finally out in mid to late October. And I think 49 quid for a shirt, reduced by £10 from 59.
Ours are 45.
Yours are 45.
Yeah, ours are 45.
But yours were out on time, kind of thing. So, what was said about that? Can you sum up what was said about that and how Deschamps Chansiri answered it?
Yeah, it was mostly Joe Palmer, who's the chief operating officer, who kind of talks about that. You get the impression that it's kind of been his project, his baby, if you like, whereby we've gone down this route of kind of making our own shirts. Which obviously it's actually made in the same factories that every other shirt's made, but we cut out the middleman. There's no Adidas, there's no Umbro, there's no Puma. We kind of design the shirt ourselves and then ship it off to be made. It sounds like a straightforward process on paper. It's obviously not, and it's hit a lot of delays along the way. It's worth pointing out we're still waiting on the away shirt. That's not released yet, and we're still waiting on the third shirt, which was designed by a fan to celebrate the 150th year. We're told that should be on the way in the start of November, but it's certainly not gone according to plan. And to be fair to the club last night, they were quick to hold their hands up and admit that along the way they've got things wrong and they've learnt things. And
what about the pricing though? How did they defend that?
The chairman talked a lot about his kind of financial model and how that works and where we are in terms of financial fair play, and how it requires the fans to put into the club in order for the club to kind of move forward and progress and sustain where it is now.
There has to be a balance on this. He has to be aware that Sheffield's not the most affluent place, and Wednesdayites are very loyal, as Blades fans are. Money's tight. I'm aware
come over to our side. £45. Hopefully they get a great deal.
well. I can't see too many doing that somehow.
No, do you feel that perhaps Wednesday, you know, the kit was late and it's being made themselves? Do you feel that they've kind of missed a bit of an opportunity
Absolutely,
there?
yeah.
Because if they'd have done, and they might have not made any money on it, they might have made a small loss on it. But if you're said, right, I tell you what, we'll do the adult shirt, I don't know, 30 quid, do the junior shirt at 15, off you pop, that'd have probably just kept everyone a bit sweeter, wouldn't it, for a bit?
Yeah, I completely agree. I think that there was an opportunity there. The delays have not been the club's fault. It's been because of third-party suppliers. And actually there was an opportunity for the club to kind of get fans on side and feel a bit of sympathy towards them and kind of, you know, back them up. What's happened by the very slow communication coming out of the club about what's been happening, and subsequently the pricing has kind of had the opposite effect, and I think it's caused more friction within the fan base, which is a shame. Yeah. I guess the flip side to it is if the shirts went on sale at £30, the nature of football, you get fans saying, well, that's too cheap, why are we not, you know, getting as much money into the club as we can be? It's a double-edged sword, but you know, personally I would agree that there was an opportunity there for a bit of a PR win, which it's a shame that we didn't quite.
Do you buy the whole thing it's like a you know, record shirt sales on Monday? Do you know? I know they released that statement. Yeah. Is that true or not?
That was said again last night.
Right.
I'm not sure. I mean, there's a lot of people that want it. Yeah. We all know that football shirts are kind of the ultimate badge of honour for a football fan, particularly in a very kind of tribal football city such as
Christmas
Sheffield.
is coming.
We've had a situation for the last few months where we've not been able to wander around town wearing our colours, where, you know, the other half have. So I think a lot of fans have took the first opportunity to kind of get out and put that right. And you know, whether it's right or wrong, £49 is cheaper than our shirts were last year. Yeah. So I think people have been keen to get them while there's that offer on.
We'll come back to Tareq Hawasli, Sheffield United director, for more Blades topics shortly. But meantime, another angle, another view on last night's steering group meeting from a guy who wasn't there. He was a bit like everybody else, just waiting for news on Twitter. But he has had a particularly harrowing and busy day today, not least worrying about Sheffield Wednesday, but something else. This is Charles Ducksbury, who I spoke to a little bit earlier. Charles, good of you to join us. I know that it's a busy day for you. You're actually moving house. Our sympathies, every viewer's sympathies, we've all been there. It's a nightmare. And to compound it, you're worried about Sheffield Wednesday, your club as well. Has the steering group meeting, from what you've read about it, the resume of it, has that settled you down at all? Do you feel a little bit more confident now? How do you feel about it, what you've heard?
I think, reading obviously what happened at the steering group meeting, the thing that's come out of it is that Mr. Chansiri is still very much passionate about the club and he's very much wanting Wednesday to do well, obviously as all fans want us to. There's obviously the season's been a bit, you know, a lot of negatives, but I think Mr. Chansiri's shown he's definitely here for the long term. He wants Wednesday to do well. And I think the big thing that came out of it for me was his support for Carlos is still, he said it's 100%. And I think that'll give the manager and it'll give the players a bit of confidence that, you know, there's not going to be drastic changes and that hopefully we're all in it together and the so-called mess that we're in at the minute, we can get out of it.
I know that you've been very much an advocate of keeping Carlos Carvalho in charge. Not every fan is. I don't know quite how the split works out. I mean, undoubtedly the fan base has been split on it. What percentage would you guess is involved there?
Well, I think, as you'll be able to agree with me on, I think a lot of the time sometimes it's the vocal minority or make the points known loudest and maybe a bit more aggressively. I certainly don't think he's lost the fans in terms of, the vast majority. I'd say a 50-50 split at the minute. A lot of fans who I talk to are feeling that a change is probably necessary, but a lot of fans are also saying, he's done a lot of good work for Wednesday and, we need to give him a chance. We've enjoyed the good runs. Now he's in a bit of a bad run, but, there's faith that he can get us out of it, and I still think he will.
It's cleared up one thing that people said that the Barnsley game could be critical for him. People thought maybe these two home games back to back as a whole could be critical for him. Now I don't think they are. Not, that Mr. Chansiri saying 100%. He's not like other chairmen in giving a vote of confidence.
No, and I think also the thing what you just alluded to is without generalising too much, a lot of foreign owners would have made a change by now, and it's refreshing to see, a foreign owner give a manager time and give him the opportunity to carry on with the job. It's funnily enough, you mentioned the Barnsley game. I seem to remember around about February and March last season, after an international break, we were playing Barnsley away, and Carlos was under a lot of pressure then, if people remember. And I think we drew the Barnsley game, and then we went to Rotherham and won, and that was the start of the charge into the playoffs, and that saw us finish fourth. So hopefully the omens are good, and we can repeat it.
Let's hope the same applies again, certainly. My impression of the split is that a 50%, I reckon, are wavering. I think there might be a 25% at one end of the scale that thinks a change would be for the best. I think there's probably a 25% at the other end, where you are, who feels the status quo is best. And I think there's a drift in the middle of the other 50% who could go one way or the other, depending on these results, immediate results anyway.
Yeah, I could probably, that's probably a good way of explaining it, Alan. Yeah, obviously results dictate things. We could beat Barnsley on Saturday, and like say that 50% in the middle will sway to the right, and Carlos will be the best thing since sliced bread, and then we might lose to Millwall, and all of a sudden he'll be, needing a change. Fingers crossed, if everybody remains patient, people see that we've had a couple of bad runs under Carlos in the past, and he's always got us through them, so I'm hoping that the same can happen again.
Yeah, he has indeed. Charles, thanks ever so much for joining us. I think you've got other things to do.
I've got a settee to lift now.
A settee which I believe won't go through the front door.
It won't.
That's a bigger problem than the ones we've been discussing. Thanks very much indeed. See you. Bye.
Pleasure. Thank you.
Good of Charles there to join us and delegate the problems of a house move. Been there myself, moved on a Saturday before, waved goodbye to my wife in the morning. I said I'm off to Nottingham to cover a football match. Leave you to it. It's always a good thing. Atmosphere, I've done it more than once as well. Atmosphere around a football club is just so important there. James, you were kind of nodding. Getting everybody together again is just vital, isn't it, for Wednesday?
Yeah, we've got a really divided fan base at the moment, and that's why I'm pleased the chairman said what he said last night. Now's the time we've got to come together and
stop the arguing.
We've all seen the stories. I was there on Saturday at Derby, and I witnessed myself a bit of friction among the away end, and that doesn't benefit anyone. There's no one that wants to see that. Atmosphere,
Bramall Lane,
loud, passion. I mean, I think it was voted best atmosphere in the UK right now.
In a fans poll, yeah.
My brother-in-law started the first game I went and watched was an Arsenal game, and I went and watched Arsenal for a couple of years. And I kid you not, right now we're louder than a 60,000 packed stadium.
Yeah, because it's tight knit, close to the pitch.
It's just everyone's heart's in it. It's just the community's heart's in it. We're trying to help the community as well. I mean, kids are coming in at £3 a game, £20 for season ticket holders. I think we're approaching 20,000 season ticket holders. I mean, so there's just a community right now that's really tight and tight knit and really believing in the system and what we're doing.
A long way to continue. We'll come back to you for a few. While I think of some really killer questions to ask Tareq.
I'm sure he's really happy about that. Well, of course, Sheffield United in action tomorrow night. We've already touched on it. Ellen Road is the place. Leeds United, the opponents. It's televised too, so you can sit and watch it with a frothy bevy if you want.
That's what I'll be doing. So I'm not working. I'm doing the Hillsborough game for TalkSport, but I haven't got the Ellen Road game. I'm really disappointed about it. I thought somebody would have employed me, so I'm going to watch it on TV.
Well, there we go. Well, I'll be there, but not in a working capacity. So that's getting the best of everything. It'll be a great atmosphere expected, of course. Another huge game for the Owls as well. Saturday, Barnsley, the visitors to Hillsborough. 1 win in 6 for the Owls. I'm sure you don't need a reminder of that if you're an Owls fan. 16th in the table. Need a result, don't you, Owls fans? Need a big result. And I'm sure Hillsborough will be rocking as well on Saturday. A week off for Sheffield FC after back-to-back league losses this weekend. So why not? Why don't you go down to the Coach and Horses ground in Dronfield and go and watch the ladies play? They're playing on Sunday. It's 2 p.m. They play against Durham. It's a much better option than watching Super Sunday, because Super Sunday, well, let's face it, it's never super, is it? It's just a Sunday. So get yourself down there. Some great quality football.
And happy birthday, home of football, 160 this week.
Yeah, brilliant.
FC.
Absolutely. Yeah. Proper stuff, yeah. Proper football. That'll be on Sunday if you want to go down there. Hallam FC as well, oldest football ground in the world, up to 9th in the Northern Counties East League league table. Great 3-2 win over Grimsby Borough last weekend. They're away at Knaresborough this weekend. Rugby Union, not talked about this for a few weeks, but I think it's about time that we did now the sort of season's underway. Both Sheffield Tigers and Sheffield Club in the same league, of course. It's the fourth tier of English rugby, National 2 North. Tigers have won 4 and lost 4. They're away at Lucktonians this weekend after their loss to Otley last weekend. Sheffield Club, however, though, probably struggling to adjust after their promotion last season. They've actually lost all 8 opening games this season. Can they get their first win this weekend at home to Blaydon from the North East? Who knows? Why don't you go down there? It's 2 p.m. Start at Abbeydale Park. Braehead Clan are the next visitors to Sheffield for the Sheffield Steelers. Sheffield 6 p.m. Sunday, but before that they've got a trip to Fife Flyers on Saturday. They had on a great sort of run of form. They'd won 4 in a row, 5 in all competitions after a loss to Belfast last weekend. So come on, if you want to go and see some ice hockey, 6 p.m. Sheffield, great value on tickets. I'm not sure exact price, but I think it's about 15 quid, your most expensive ticket to go and watch that. So really good value. And we'll finish off Matt Fitzpatrick in the World Golf Championship event in China. If you do want to watch it, it's about 2:30 this morning. It tees off in his second round. That's after firing a 4-under par 68 to sit 4 shots off overnight leader Brooks Koepka.
Thank you very much, James. I'm a bit of a believer in the law of averages at times, and the stat that's leapt out at me in terms of Sheffield United just lately is it's now 20 league games since they drew with anybody. And I think that speaks of the positive attitude there more than any other stat, actually, that they go out to win games. They've not had a draw. What about it? Elland Road?
I'd take it. I'd take it. I'd take it, yeah.
Yeah, you're not going to take it, are you? You're not taking it, are you? But sooner or later, they are going to draw a game, aren't they?
Why? You know, it's yeah, they are, to answer your question. Yeah, they are. The due one. And, you know, there's been, I mean, arguably they could have drawn at Middlesbrough with the sort of goal. You know, there's the thing, it's fact, you know, factors like this in football. Law of averages says you are going to have a run like that at some point. Would you take it tomorrow night? Yeah, I think I probably would.
You know, if I was a Blades fan, I think I'd probably just take a draw, but I don't think the manager would. I don't think the manager would. He's definitely not.
He goes for the win every time.
Yeah, and home to Barnsley. Well, you know, these games have been close, haven't they, for a long time now? And the poor relation, in my view, in my neutral view, has had very little luck in that fixture, Wednesday-Barnsley. I can think of a few where key decisions have gone Wednesday's way.
It was a close game last season.
Yeah.
It's a tough one to call. There's little between the teams in the league. I think it's about 4 points.
It's only 4 points
difference. You know, we're not in the best run of form that we've ever been in, and that could be a bit of a leveler. I think, you know, Barnsley will always come to Hillsborough really up for it. I think we've got to match that, and we've just got to get a result. It's that simple. It's one of those. I hate using the phrase must-win games, but it really is.
Yeah. Not just for Carlos though; it's also for the team, isn't it? You know, if the team is still serious about getting in the top 6 and sort of getting promoted,
they owe him big time.
Whether it's for the players or the manager, it's not that. It's for the club trying to get promoted. That's a big game.
It's a big week. You know, it's Barnsley on Saturday. It's Millwall on Tuesday. The utmost of respect to both teams. They're games that at the start of the season you look at on paper and you would hope that you would pick up 6 points from those. We're at the point of the season now, the way that season's gone, where we have to pick up 6 points from those, because it's not just about making sure that we don't drop too far behind the top 6. It's actually making sure the season's not going to fizzle into obscurity.
And I was really pleased to hear Carlos last week before the Derby game refer to character of the players, refer to their mentality. And they had to show a tougher mentality, really. And I think that is required of very experienced and good players, that they show a little bit about leadership, which appears to be lacking, and taking responsibility.
Yeah.
Do you agree with that?
Yeah, I mean, ultimately, how much of it was down to the sending off, I don't know, but I think we saw one of our best performances of the season on Saturday. We stood up to be counted, and you know, there was some nice football played, and there was a real determination that we were going to get back in that game. And arguably, we were unfortunate not to get something out of it in the end. When all of us thought after 4 minutes that's game over, we might as well pack up and go home. And in actual fact, it was a close game, and probably the Derby fans came away a bit more disappointed about the way they played than ultimately we did. We've got to carry that through now. We've got to carry that into the next 2 games at Hillsborough, and go out and perform. We've got to show that level of professionalism. We've got to work hard, and we've got to grind out 2 wins.
Okay, James, and you're looking forward to your weekend and the rest of the season, and
one game at a time.
Well,
one game at a time.
One game at a time. You know, he's learning quite a lot about football very quickly, isn't he?
I think so.
Saying stuff like that.
Exactly. I was going to ask you a question. You know, for you guys, obviously running the club, you know, we talked sort of off air a little bit about Jim Phipps, who sort of was engaging a lot on social media.
Yeah.
For you guys now, do you sort of look at the message boards? Do you look at what the fans are saying on the hashtags on Twitter? You know, how in tune with that are you?
First of all, Jim is a friend, and I wish him well.
As do we all.
He's a
friend of this show, came in twice.
He's a nice man.
Yeah.
You know, obviously, social media is undeniable. It's the future and the present. But me personally, I don't really. But I know many do.
You're on there. I know you're on there.
Yeah, I'm an optimist.
Yes, but did you say optimist or at optimist or
optimal optimist?
Optimal optimist.
I like that.
Thank you.
That suits a Sheffield United fan, have to be. Yeah, you're probably well off. It's surprising now just how many players and managers are out there on social media, which is a very exposed place to be. It's a wonderful place to be when you're winning. You know, you bask in the glow of it at the moment. There is another side to it.
You just stay keen, balanced. You know, you enjoy the wins, and you test a man's character during the tough times and the good times, and you just take it one step at a time. You know, that's.
I think football supporters want players to be players, managers to be managers, and directors, by and large, to be directors in the background.
That's right.
I think that's where they really prefer them.
That's right.
Be.
That's right. And
apart from at times like in transfer windows when people are saying, "Come on, then, you know, let's kick a bit of cash behind this team."
We you know, United, we stand behind Coach Chris, and we'll be there for him.
He'll be there for it.
And the shareholders and the owners, they definitely support him.
He's a guy that doesn't go publicly and make demands.
He's a gentleman and a true man's man, if you will. And I personally respect him quite a bit, and I love the way he's leading the club.
The fact that he doesn't make demands shouldn't lead us to believe that he isn't ambitious to spend a few bob.
Isn't every coach ambitious?
Yeah, and he's ambitious to, you know, if the opportunity is there, you can never pick this time. You know, in football, you can never say, well, we're not quite ready for it yet, so we'll be happy to finish 7th or 8th this year, and next year we'll give it a real go. You can never pick and choose that time.
Words of wisdom.
Well, I like to think so. Not many people say that about me. And far be it from anybody to say I'm helping one Sheffield club at the expense of the other. To strike a common chord where we began.
Well, you've got the pen now.
Wouldn't it be nice? I need somebody in here to give me a blue pen next week. Yeah. But it's kind of here. I have to say, not every guest comes in here with a gift for me. It's almost like payola, really.
I wanted to reciprocate the gift you gave to Coach Chris after last year.
I did. That was something I was racking my brains. What on earth would he want at the end of last season? What would he want?
Well, we had a good idea, didn't we?
He accepted a box
with a big smile.
A box of Peroni. Yeah.
Exactly.
Didn't last the evening. Right. We have. Thanks ever so much to you. Thank you, James. Thank you, Tareq. Thank you, James. And thanks also to Charles Ducksbury. Thank you for watching on my YouTube channel later. See you next week. Bye.